Colt, and it was designed for the U.S. Army to be able to kill a man and a horse. And it was the most popular firearm in Western movies.
All right, let's talk about this more. I'm so pleased to welcome in our next guest. First time at Court TV headquarters, but certainly not his first time as a legal analyst on our air. Attorney Brian Watkins here from California. Big welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great to see you in person. I've always enjoyed talking to you, remotely when you weigh in. We watched you in action when you were defending Kellen Winslow II in his first trial. That was one of the first cases we covered as a network, and we all were saying we got to have him on our air. You were so impressive, Brian. So glad you're here. And you've been a prosecutor in addition to doing the private criminal defense work now. So
correct.
We're going to tap into all of that here. So we're criticizing, analyzing everything going on with the prosecutors, the defense attorneys, and that firearm, what should we call it, snafu that happened yesterday. It kind of has everybody talking, and sadly it overshadowed all of the good information this defense expert had to offer. So I want to start by going back with the clip from the judge. So the defense calls this expert, who's very helpful to their case. But when things start out, the judge right away admonishes him for not showing everyone that the gun is unloaded. Let's take a look.
And here is a 10X revolver.
So, Your Honor, I'm going to object. All right, first of all, everybody's nervous because you have not demonstrated to us that they are unloaded. So before you start showing us the weapons, make sure they're unloaded, including that one that you just touched.
Okay, so Brian, let's just go behind the scenes. I think this is a really important thing to talk about. In courthouses, firearms aren't allowed generally by anybody who isn't coming in with a badge, as you know. But here, when you have a demonstration like this is going to be cleared with the court ahead of time, is it not? That gun's going to be checked the first minute that expert walked in the door with it, right?
Absolutely. They're going to speak about what's going to happen in the testimony when they're out of the presence of the jury, preparing for the next day. They say, we're going to use an exhibit. What's the exhibit going to be? It's going to be the firearm. Okay, at that point, clearly it's going to be unloaded. All that stuff is talked about. Yeah, we're going to just, we're going to display the firearm to the jury tomorrow. Okay, that's going to be the exhibit. There's already pre-marked. So the exhibits are already examined and they know what they are. This wasn't a surprise exhibit. They're like, oh my God, what do you have here? Oh, a gun. What's that doing here?
Right.
We've talked about it already, and clearly it's going to be unloaded. I mean, there's a lot of firearms in the courthouse. Everyone's walking around with one on their hips. Deputies, district attorney investigators are also armed, walking around in plain clothes with firearms on their hips. And so it's not like a nuclear bomb that he's touching.
Right,
okay,
Brian.
and for the judge to have done that, that's very inappropriate for the judge, okay? Because she basically said the prosecution's case. Hey, in every situation, you have to show everybody that the gun is not loaded. And that's not the case. That's the problem with this case in general. Guns can be pointed at people. That's what you do in movies.
Right.
Otherwise, we would have no action movies. Every action movie I've ever seen, guns are being pointed at people, the triggers are actually being pulled. So, they're taking these gun rules way too literally.
I hear you, what you're saying about the judge. I want to go back to that because that was what I thought. I thought, oh my, the judge interjecting herself there, even well-intentioned, could be harmful to the defense side, just for the reasons you just said, because that's what this whole case is about. Alec Baldwin believing he had a cold gun, the cinematographer asking him to point it in that direction. Here we've got a firearms expert with a gun that the judge would know ahead of time. And so clearly that was for the jury to feel safe. Brian, earlier I was saying on my show how I blame the advocate. I blame this defense team for not knowing, when you do gun cases, you have to know, even though you know as the attorney, that gun is unloaded completely. You have to make sure first thing out of your mouth is, okay, expert so-and-so. Show us first thing we want to do is show us it's unloaded. Make sure this gun is absolutely clear. And you let the jury do that sigh of relief, right? What responsibility do you think the advocate has in there for not speaking up quickly enough and letting the judge interject there?
I don't know that he didn't. Like I said, they discussed the exhibits prior to them even going in front of the jury to do the testimony and, basically display the exhibit to the jury. And so clearly at that time, he says, we're going to be bringing in the gun. Clearly, it's going to be unloaded. There'd be no reason for it to be live ammunition. And you have to understand something here, too. These aren't, yes, they are real guns, but this is a very ancient, old replica of a Western gun. You can't go to a gun store and buy bullets for this gun. Okay,
Great
it's not
point.
a 40 caliber, it's not a 9mm, it's not a semi-automatic. The modern day bullets that you can get in any gun store that you would get, you have to know. I don't even know if they make these bullets for these guns anymore because they don't manufacture these guns anymore. So you're looking at a very far-fetched scenario of that gun being loaded. Yes, we're here on trial for that scenario actually happening.
Right.
But to think that the defense attorney had not spoken to the judge and the prosecution about what that exhibit was going to be, and clearly it's, of course, going to be unloaded, for him to redouble check that in front of the jury, I thought was inappropriate of the judge.
Right, I agree with you, Brian. And, you know, and trying to be totally objective here, just about the advocacy, the way it was done, the judge interjecting herself. The other thing I didn't like, in particular, if I'm defense counsel, was the court staff checking the firearms expert. So here you've got the gun expert in the box, and you have the sheriff's deputy checking everything he does. If you watch the video, when the expert places the gun down on the top of the witness box. Okay, there, he pushes the barrel down because of the direction the barrel was facing. He was facing toward the judge, and you see him checking him. Brian, I wondered if that is standard in New Mexico, because where I practiced in Pennsylvania, it was not. I've handled firearms in the courtroom. I've had witnesses, firearms experts, police, my affiant, you know, handle guns often. And there's a protocol. You know, would you please remove the safety law? Would you please show the jury this gun has been clear? You did it before coming in, but we're going to do it again right now. You make a big deal. I've never seen someone hovering over the witness box making that expert look like he didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of an exaggeration of how dangerous guns are. Like I said, we're not dealing with a bomb that could go off at any second. You know, this is an unloaded firearm. There's not even live rounds of ammunition anywhere near the courthouse, anywhere in the vicinity, you know, probably for miles. I bet you couldn't buy, you'd probably have to Google and travel miles to find a bullet that would be able to, you know, be fired out of that weapon. And for the deputy, who's not a firearm expert, by the way, you know, they're taught to shoot their own firearm, but they don't know anything about any other firearms. You know, for him to be hovering over him and acting like, you know, the expert doesn't know what he's doing is very, you know, discrediting to the defense, and I don't like that at all. You know what I mean? The prosecution put up guns all the time. I've had guns handed to the juries. Each jury member touched the gun and passed it along to the next jury member. And so for them to be that cautious about it, I think takes credibility away from the defense expert, like he doesn't know how to handle a gun.
Exactly, Brian. I'm with you. I would not have liked that if I was the defense. And, you know, and that's where it's like those lawyers would need to your point, in the prep meetings, you know, when there are meetings outside the jury, how's this going to go? And if the judge as well, or, you know, I want the deputy to be, well, is that standard? And if it is standard, then let's say that for the whole, so the jury knows this isn't just being done to baby this guy we've called because there's not a lot of confidence in him, right? That's the appearance. Brian, I want to show you how the prosecutor handled this and what she did with this expert on cross after that incident, and get your thoughts. Let's take a look.
Do you agree with me that basic gun safety requires that the handler of the gun not point the gun at anyone?
If it's a real gun, yes.
Do you agree with me that while you were sitting here in the courtroom, you pulled out a gun and you pointed it at the judge?
I do not.
You disagree?
I pointed the gun into this space up here, never directly at the judge.
All right, Brian, your thoughts on how she crossed him?
Not very effectively. Not at all. You know, I mean, this is a gun expert. He knows how to handle a gun, and to question him on something so elementary as, do you agree that you're not supposed to point a gun at someone? This is an expert that knows about firearms well more than she does. And for her to question him on something so simple and so elementary as whether or not you should point a gun at someone, you know, it invoked this response that we expected, and it didn't make her look good.
Right. Yeah, I didn't care for. I didn't care for the way she asked the question. I thought it was awkward. She came off as condescending, and she has throughout this trial. He's not the only witness she's kind of come off as snarky to. Even her own witness, when she called Seth Kenny, a lot of us were watching that, going, "You're treating him like a hostile witness, and he's your witness. You called him." So, Brian, I've got so many more questions for you. So glad you're here. Stand by, please. We got to hit our first break. When we come back, we're going to hear more from that firearms expert, and we'll show you more of the cross from the prosecutor and what she did after.